Welcome back everyone to the Hello World Guy, and this is episode number 4 of the 3D platformer series. And in today's video we are going to do a couple of interesting things. But first of all, let me show you how I implemented the functionality where the longer you hold, the higher the jump is. So I actually wanted to post the code in the description, but I did not do that, and I will show you right now. So you can see that this is my player. I'm playing the game right now, and if I just hit jump, I jump normally if I just press the space bar, but if I hold it for a little while and then I release, I jump quite higher. And this is quite easy to implement, and of course there's a limit. I just can't jump infinitely higher. I cannot jump higher than this. So the longer you hold, the higher you jump. It's a really simple thing. So how does that work? For that, let me open up Visual Studio, and in here you can see that in the update method, I have already got a I've got a you can see that we have got this if input dot get button down jump here, and in here I have actually created two more variables. One is a float called jump timer, and another is a bool called jump hold, which represents whether we are holding a spacebar key or not. Even though in reality we did not actually need to do that, we could have just used a different thing, but I'm going to do that anyways. In here you can see that on line 47 I've got if an if statement checking if the button is down, which means as soon as the player presses the button we turn holding to true, which means now we are detecting any changes. So in here we check if our jump hold is true, which will be set true whenever the player presses the button, and set false whenever the player releases the button. By detecting get button up, we just add our jump timer, we add time, the delta time to it. Now in here we have got when the player actually releases the button, we have got jump hold, which is set to false. And then we set when we check if our jump count is less than max jump count, just a normal ground check, and then if that is the case we jump. Now this is a jump method that I have created, and if I open that up, you can see that we have got here a private void called jump, which takes in a float called multiplier. Now it basically does whatever it did before. It increments the jump count and adds a force in the mode of impulse, and it's a new vector 3, and the jump force is multiplied by the multiplier that we give in here. And in here you can see for the multiplier we use the math.f.clamp method to limit the actual jump that the player can make, and then we take the jump timer and we add 1 to it. The reason we do that, because if we do not add 1, then if the player immediately releases, the jump timer may be 0 or very close to 0, which will cause the player not to jump at all, which doesn't make any sense. So we add 1 to it, and then we clamp it between 1 and 2.5 to prevent the player from going too high. I think I will actually reduce to just 2. And yeah, we just add that as a multiplier, and in here we just multiply with it, and that works. So it's a really simple implementation, and let me know in the comments how many of you got this and whether your strategy was different or similar to mine. So yeah, with that we have got a working system. You might want to, by the way, you might want to create an actual variable for this in the serialized field. Not going to do that. I think I'm pretty fine with 2. So yeah, with that done, I think we can get started with what we actually need to do today. And the first thing that I actually want to do is create a basically a death system for our players. So when something goes wrong, the player so when the players, you can see that if I currently just play the game and I fall down from the ground, then I keep going down infinitely without ever stopping. So you can see I jump and I jump again, and there I go, and I can just keep going down and it never stops, which doesn't make any sense. So the player should have a limit to how far it can go. But first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the package manager, and in here I'm going to go to the Skybox series package, which remember has got a bunch of different cool looking skyboxes, and I'm just going to import this asset so that our environment looks a little better. If you want a better tutorial on how to create skyboxes, how to set up skyboxes in Unity, I've got a tutorial for that. Make sure to check it up and check it out. And yeah, in here I'm just going to import everything except the example scenes, and yeah, I'm going to import everything else and just hit import. And then once wait for it to import, for it shouldn't take that long. Alright, so once that package has installed, all you need to do is go under window, rendering and lighting, and in here what you can do is go under environment, and for the skybox you can select whatever you like here. If you select this button, you should see all of the skyboxes, but you can also open up this folder and choose whatever you want. I mean, something like well, this seems quite cool. No, that's not quite nice. Okay, this I think seems quite quite all right. You can maybe change it to something like this, but this makes it look like it's in the cloud. uh, okay, that looks, I think, pretty good. So yeah, this looks pretty nice. And we have got a bit too much of a lighting here. If I turn off my direction light, you can see that it doesn't really cause much of a difference, because we have got too much lighting coming from the skybox. So what you can do is you can go under window and then rendering and then lighting, and you can go under environment, and then you can go and change this environment lighting to a little bit lower, something like 0.5 or zero point 0.4 should be pretty much enough for us. We will of course use HDRP later in order to improve our lighting, but I think it works for now. So yeah, we have got a pretty good system, but of course we can currently jump just as we did before. Now what I want to do is, if the player falls down and he goes below a certain limit, we want the player to actually just die. So how can we actually accomplish that? Well, for this I'm just going to open up my player script here, and up here, before everything else, I'm going to add a public void called die. uh, in here, what we are going to do is that we are, first of all, I think what we should do is we can of course disable this component. So we can go destroy this in order to remove the player, or if you do not want to just destroy, you can just go ahead and set enabled is equal to false, and that should and well, that works for now. I think that's pretty much enough. And what we can do is we can check and add another check inside of the update method. We can check if well, we what we need to do is that we need to check if the player. So for that, I'm going to, first of all, let me just go up here in the serialize field, in up here, and I'm going to add in a another header here, add in a space after this header, and followed by another header saying dying. And in here I am going to add a serialize field here, which is going to be just a private float called let's just call it kill z. So this kills the not, that doesn't make any sense, because so we are going to say kill y, I guess, because kill z is, I'm from an Unreal background, so that's the reason I got kill z, because z is vertical in Unreal Engine. In Unity, that's why. So kill y, and we're going to this is just going to we are going to just keep that at whatever value it is, and we are going to check if transform dot position dot y is less than kill y, and if it is, then we are going to execute the die method. As simple as that. So let's actually try seeing if that actually works. So for this, what you can do is that, what you might want to do actually is, you might want to see how low you can go by just going to the side view and just taking any object and just moving it down to somewhere where you actually want the player not to go any lower. And I think something like -9 should do pretty much nice for us. So I'm just going to select my player and go under here, and for the kill y, I'm going to change that to something like 9, I guess. And now if I play, but let's just see, let me show you how it goes. Of course we will add a death screen, but let me first, okay, so you can see that the player script immediately gets disabled for some reason. Not quite sure why. You can see we have got transform.position.y is less than kill y, only then we are supposed to execute this method. And yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because our kill y is 9 and we need to make it -9. Alright, so now this should work hopefully. And yeah, if I go down here, you can see the player is enabled. I can move, and if I do a single jump, it works. And as soon as I go below 9, I cannot do another jump, and yeah, that function executes. So this is really nice. And one more thing you can do is also disable the rigid body if you want to do. So you can go up here and say rb.enabled rb. Okay, we've got rb here. rb.enabled is equal to false. So yeah, this is okay, rigid body does not contain a method for enable. Let's see if that actually causes a problem. Rigid body does not contain a definition for enabled. Well, let's see rb dot we are just going to say destroy rb, because I think let's just do that. Yeah, that works. So let's just and that should automatically disable the rigid body as well. Anyways, now what we can do is that we can make it so that now we have got a kill y and we've got all of that rigid body stuff working. So now what we essentially need to do is we need to add a death screen so that the player actually knows when he dies. For that though, all I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and let's try to add in a empty a UI canvas here containing a image first of all, and I'm just going to rename this image to background, and I'm going to rename this canvas to death canvas. And let's go into the game view and let's select this background and make sure that it is uh, let's alt and select stretch here so that it covers the whole screen. Make sure everything is 0 here and make its color completely black and make it slightly transparent to something like 70 by adjusting the alpha value in the color. And yeah, that kind of creates a good looking background. And we can add in a UI text here called, okay, we need to import the TMP essentials for it to work. You can import the extras and examples if you want, but doesn't really matter. And anyways, we are going to create here called game over. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch it and make it centered and stretched. And so horizontally it will be stretched, and make sure that it is set to be like this, and turn on auto size and increase the height to something like I don't know, 80 or 100. Just take it 100, and I'm going to change the text to say something like game over, and then make it bold and underline whatever you want. I'm going to make it red, and then just change its position on the Y to something like 80. All right. And I'm going to increase its height a little bit more. Make sure that you haven't got a small max amount here. Just increase it to something extremely large. And we are going to increase its height to something like 150 now, so that it makes it looks better. And now if even if I okay, so what you can do is you can increase the height to something really large like 1500, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, not 1500, just make it 150, and that works. So you can see it causes a little bit of a problem, but it doesn't really matter that much. Maybe you want it to be to the top, and then you can decrease the position to something like -100, and now that looks better. And in here what I'm going to do is you might also want to add a method to restart. So I'm going to right click and create a UI button here called restart button, and I'm going to increase its width a bit and height a lot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, it's centered, so yeah, that's nice. And you might want to move it a little bit down to something like 1950, and yeah, that looks all right. And what you can do is you can go under the text here and make sure it's auto sized and no max amount particularly, and we are going to add in a little bit of padding to the left and the right, and then we are going to say something like restart here. And yeah, that looks pretty nice. I'm going to increase the width a little bit to allow it to look a little better. And yeah, that looks awesome. And yeah, this button is clickable, but of course it currently hasn't got any event on it. So what you might do is right click and create an empty object called UI events. This is, we are basically following the method for UI events that we did in all of our other series. Just create an object called UI events and go under scripts, right click, create a new C# script called UI events, and this will contain a bunch of public methods for us to access whenever we want. Okay, so let it compile first, because it won't allow you to add the script until it compiles. And once it has compiled, just add it to UI events. And once you don't do that, just double click to open it up in VS Code, and in here we can remove the first two using tag and remove these two methods because we do not need them. Just add in a you can just add in a method here, public void called restart. We do not need any parameters for this, and what we need is actually what in the actual method what we want to do is we want to say scene manager. Of course, for this we need to be using Unity engine, so using, adding a using statement here called Unity engine dot scene management. And what we can do here is we can go scene manager dot load scene manager dot current scene, okay, dot get active scene, all right, dot build index. So we just reload the current scene. So scene manager get active scene dot build index returns the current scene's build index, and then we just reload the same scene. All right. You can also use, whether I think there is a path option as well. You can use that if you want, but we are going to just use build index. and this should basically restart the current level. I'm going to rename this method to restart level, and let's open up the main script, main actual game in Unity, and let it compile. And once I go under the restart button, now I can add in a on click here event, and I'm going to add the UI event subject and go under UI events and choose restart level. So we can now disable this death canvas by default, and now we need to make it so that when the player dies, this actually gets enabled. For this though, all I will do is go under Visual Studio Code, and in here, in the dying header, I'm going to add yet another like field here. This is going to be a private game object called, or you can maybe make it a canvas if you want, but no game object, called death canvas. And what we do is in the start method, we just set this death canvas dot set active and make it false. And what we do in the update method, not in the update method, in the die method up here, what we do is that we just say that canvas dot set active to be true. Alright, once we do that, we can just let it compile, and now when we open Unity, it should just work. So in here, I'm just going to let it compile, and let's just select our player, go under here, drag the death canvas in this object, and we can open up the game view, and let's just try to hit play and see how well it goes and whether restarting works or not. So you can see the player is looking nice, and as soon as the player goes down, it okay it gives an error because it cannot remove the rigid body. So for that, what I'm going to do is actually just go to our VS Code here, and let's just say destroy this as well, because if this is even if it is disabled, it will still not allow to remove this. So let's just say destroy this. Yeah, and that should basically work. So let's go under Unity and let's try to play again and see how well it goes. Also, one more thing we need to do is we need to set cursor dot lock state is equal to cursor lock mode dot none, because we do not want it to be locked at all, so that our player can actually interact with the outside world. So if I do that and let me just hit play to see how well it goes, what you can see is that, well, when we actually jump out of it, and yeah, you can see that now it says game over, and I can hit restart, and that restarts the level. So yeah, this is pretty nice, and now we have got a working death system along with a nice looking sky for our game, along with a great jump system that we can use to make some awesome jumps. So yeah, this is pretty much it for this video, and I will see you in the next one in which we will add more features. So make sure to like and subscribe, and well, bye.